5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Wheeler, thank you for being here. It's good to see you. We appreciate you taking time to come talk to us. I wanted to talk very quickly about the district I represent. It's the 1st Congressional District of Georgia. And we have 2 major seaports, as you know, the Port of Savannah, the number 2 container port on the eastern seaboard, the Port of Brunswick, which is the number 2 roll-on, roll-off port in the country. Both of these are extremely important to the economic well-being of the Southeast United States. The Port of Savannah and of Brunswick are 2 of the major economic engines of the Southeast, and it's very important that we keep those going. One of the things that I've spoken to you about in the past has been the bar pilots that are so very important in escorting the ships in and out of the harbor, and the requirement now that they utilize the Tier 4 engines. Now, we've had EPA personnel go out to the manufacturers that make the boats that they are required, that harbor pilots are required to have, and meet with them, and they've said, look, we cannot meet these requirements, and EPA has agreed. And it's my understanding that through the rulemaking process that you're going to correct this. Can you tell me where we're at right now in the rulemaking process dealing with the Tier 4 engines?
Yes, we've submitted the rule to OMB, and that should be going out for public comment shortly.
Can you give me an idea about how long the OMB process may take? Because obviously this is very urgent on our part.
I'm not sure if it's a 30 or 60-day review by OMB, but I'll check into that and get back to you, sir.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. This is a step in the right direction, changing the rules, but time is of the essence. I just hope that everyone understands that, because it just simply cannot be done. And the Tier 4 engines, I might add, is impacting other areas. We have a strong ag presence in our district as well. And now the farmers are telling us that they actually cannot get the Tier 4 engines onto the tractors and use the type of wheels that they need to use in their process. So I hope that this will be something you'll be looking at as well.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. If we could kind of shift gears now about the Superfund sites. In my district, and particularly in one area, we have a county, Glenn County, that has 4 Superfund sites, and it's of major concern. In fact, last year, you will remember that I hand-delivered a letter to you about one of them that the Department of Justice and EPA have ruled on, the Terry Creek site in Brunswick, Georgia. It's the Hercules site. The Hercules plant used to be on that. And last September, I gave you a letter, as I say, asking you to work together with the Department of Justice to address some of the concerns that the local community had about the consent decree and the remediation plans. Do you know, or can you tell me what actions have been taken on the consent decree to alleviate some of the concerns that the community leaders have?
I believe their concerns have been addressed, and I'm also told that consent decree should be finalized in the next month or so, but I'll make sure, and I'll go back and make sure that their concerns have been addressed.
Do you work with the Department of Justice on this? Whose jurisdiction, who's going to be making the final decision?
It's a collaborative process between EPA and the Department of Justice on working on the consent decrees for Superfund sites.
Okay. I'm very concerned also because two of these sites in Brunswick, in that area, one of them has had this designation of construction complete, and that designation has been on there for 20 years. Is that correct? Am I wrong on that? Or?
It might be. Part of my frustration why we're putting such an emphasis on getting these Superfund sites cleaned up is because when they're on the national priority list for decades, that means it's not a priority. As I mentioned in my opening statement, we delisted 22 sites last year, the most since 2005. We've made it a priority at the agency to move these sites, to get them cleaned up and get them cleaned up quickly. Again, if something is on the national priority list for decades, then by definition, that's not a priority.
This is, a major concern to this community. I've met with the community leaders, and, they have big plans for some of these areas, but they can't. For instance, they're looking to build a school. We can't build a school on a site like this unless we know it's been remediated, unless we know it's safe. I mean, that's just irresponsible. So I hope that I can get your commitment that you'll pay particular attention to this. I recognize that it would be unfair to ask you to speak on this specific site, that you're probably not prepared for that, but at the same time, I hope that you'll take that back and perhaps have your staff get in touch with me.
Happy to do that, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Finally, I want to talk about biobutanol. That is something that is very important to us on the coast because, as you know, the impact that particular fuel has on marine engines is less severe than some of the other fuels that are out there. And I know that the agency has been grappling with the proposal on year-round E15, but what consumer protections can we expect you to see for boaters and other small engine operators to prevent misfueling and educate them on alternatives like biobutanol?
Well, we do work with the gasoline stations, the oil companies to make sure that it's properly labeled, and to try to make sure through education efforts and through to make sure that when you have boats that it's labeled correctly and that people are not putting the wrong fuel into their vehicles or boats.
Okay. All right. I've got just about a minute left. Just to recap, Mr. Wheeler, Tier 4 engines, Superfund sites, biobutanol. Okay? And I'm going to yield the remainder of my time to Ranking Member Shimkus.
Well, I thank my colleague, and I'll just be brief. I was going to raise a point of order